Welcome everyone. This is a session to help you configure a OSC UnityXT quote from a competitor's quote. So today we have a NetApp quote that was submitted to my distribution partner, and we're going to convert that into an OSC order. So again, we want to follow a process for this, however. This is not as simple as just looking at the model number and knowing. And so we have to go through the quote, the bill of materials that we have from the competitor, and identify some key pieces and parts. So we're going to identify the manufacturer's storage model. And then really quick, we want to run out to the internet just to get a couple of pieces and parts about this, how big it is, so the physical characteristics. We also want to know really where in their portfolio this device sits. Is it their highest performing, their middle performing, their low performing? Where does it fit within their portfolio? We're going to review the number and the types of disks. This is going to help us with performance. This is going to help us from a sizing perspective. And then we're going to make sure and validate that we have the right connectivity. So what kind of connectivity does that manufacturer have? So once we've done that, we're going to identify the software that's included. And again, you notice here, snapshots really are clones. So if it's a competing product that says snapshots, that's really going to be clones on our side. And then mirroring and replication is really more akin to the recover point, our portfolio. We're going to identify a Dell Technologies best fit storage product. Generally speaking, by the way, NetApps almost always fall into the UnityXT line. And then we're going to configure a similar number of disks, performance, capacity, and connectivity. So with that, we're going to take a closer look at this NetApp bill of materials. And so what we have here is we have our NetApp bill of materials, and we're going to start going through this process and checking it. So we have our actual unit itself, which is a FAS 2750 highly available system. And I've looked online, and this system is a 2U enclosure that has 24 disk capability and 2 controllers. So again, very, very similar to the smaller UnityXT lines. They are using SFP optical 10 gig connectivity. They have 8 ports on that. They have the actual configuration of 24 1.8 terabyte 10K drives. That pretty much tells us that our solution is going to be a hybrid. And as I scroll down here, they're doing some data at rest encryption, and they're going to have a non-returnable disk. So we definitely want to select that. And then last but not least, they do have an additional shelf of drives here. They have another shelf of 24 1.8 terabyte drives. So we're going to definitely want to make sure we configure that as we move forward. So we're going to start. We're going to go into the online solutions configuration tool. We're going to create our new solution, and then we're going to start adding products to it. Now, one of the nuances with UnityXT is that you can only search for Unity. And if you fast forward correctly, and I'm going to give you the hint here, fast forward all the way to page number 4, all of the rest of these entries are either upgrades or spares. You have some extra software and stuff like that that you can add later. But on page 4, you will find the UnityXT new solutions. So this is a hybrid. It does have spinning disk in it, so we're going to add that. And then we're going to go over to the configuration tab, and we're going to configure that. So again, when you're coming from a foreign manufacturer, a different manufacturer, you have to make a best educated guess. This is not necessarily a science. It's sometimes kind of an art form. So we are going to choose the 25 2.5-inch disk enclosure. We are going to get the base software with DARE, so that will be a multi-protocol Unity. And then we have to start configuring the disks. So the original configuration had 24 1.8 terabyte drives in the actual controller. So what we're going to do is we're going to change our syspack from 600 gig drives, and we're just going to change that also to the 1.8 terabyte drives. We're going to add fastcast. Now, this is definitely something you don't need to do, but when you're trying to do a competition, you want to make sure you pull out all the stops. We're going to give some cache capabilities, some high-speed capabilities to this array. That way, when we go back and we say, hey, their product is an XYZ, our product is XYZ, but we'll provide a lot more performance. So we're going to click on the Unity 3 drives of the 400 gig fast cache. And then we're going to configure the rest of the drives in this enclosure. So again, it does take 25 drives, and we've already consumed 7. So we're going to add in 18 of the 1.8 terabyte drives. We're going to configure connectivity. So we do have our I/O, and they're using 10 gig optical. So we're going to also use 10 gig optical. We're going to configure 2 ports on each controller. So we're going to do 2 here as well. So now we have our I/O. We don't need cables at this point. When we configure the enclosures, we will do that. We have 3 years of support, and very importantly, they did have the keep your hard drive in option, so we do want to select that as well, and rightfully, you should actually configure that for any order that's going to the federal government. So at this point, we've configured the base controller. The 380, UnityXT 380 is now configured. So now we're going to continue, and we're going to move forward with this. Now we're going to go and we say, okay, they had an additional shelf of disks, so we're going to configure an enclosure. They had 24 2.5-inch drives, so we're going to select that one. We're not going to put any fast cache drives in this, but we will add the 1.8 terabyte drives, the same as the competitor, and we're going to add all 25 of them. So now our solution has almost exact same number of drives that their solution has. And we have the 400 gig fast cache, the 400 gig fast cache drives. So we're actually providing similar, if not exactly the same capacity, but we're also providing more performance. We do need to connect this back up to the main unit. So we're going to add our connections, or SAS connectivity, and we're going to add 2 cables, one for each cluster connector. And we're going to add power cords. So now we've added power, we've added our SAS cables, and we've added our disks to our expansion shelf. Notice the Pro Deploy, the Keep Your Hard Drives, and the Mission Critical are the same as the original configuration. So we're going to go start moving forward with this. I'm going to tell you, because it's optional, but it's free optional if you wish. When you get to the required software, you always add in AppSync. Again, AppSync, and we're not going to do the on-site install. We'll leave that to the customer, but it gives them a lot more flexibility from a software point of view. We're going to go to step number 4, which is Recover Point. I know NetApp very, very well, and part of their technology that they love to sell and advertise is their SnapMirror product, which is Recover Point. SnapMirror and Recover Point are very, very similar. So we're going to configure Recover Point, and we're not, again, going to deploy that for them. We'll have them deploy it themselves. And then step 6 is the optional monitoring and reporting for the storage array. So we are going to go through and configure that. An important note here is that by default, the deployment services are actually turned on for storage M&R. We do need to make that a customer installable, or that will add about $1,500. So now that we've completed, we're at the last step, which is our rack. Again, the NetApp configuration we're mirroring did not have a rack included, so we're going to skip this step and go to the summary. And as you can see, we have our Unity. We have our enclosure. We have AppSync, Recover Point, monitoring and reporting all configured, and we do not have a rack. So at this point, we're very confident that our solution is going to match the pre-existing additional manufacturer solution. So we're going to finish this up. We're going to save this solution, and then we're going to send the solution ID off to the Dell Disty mailbox for pricing. And they should be able to get back pretty quickly a standard price. And if this is a registered opportunity, the registered pricing as well. So again, if you have any questions about this process, if you need help with any of this stuff, please feel free to give me a call. My number is 804-402-9235. Thank you guys very much.